Thank you very much indeed. I think that the Moscow school is even in greater difficulty than we. I'm very thankful to Lena and Yura and the team for inviting me. I have a presentation, and for about a year we have spoken and considered this very topic, the post-Soviet space, distant, different, and shared. And I'm thankful to Armen Zakarian already touching upon this concept of cultural codes, which may have united us or continue to unite us to some extent. My presentation is called Situation in the Post-Soviet Space, and I would like to say a few words about the possible development scenarios. So we're seeing here several groups of countries, and Russia is interestingly also viewed as a conglomerate of different unities. There are the Baltic states, the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, those states which have indeed fallen out, one may say, from this post-Soviet space. Belarus, the Ukraine, and Moldova, very different states, very different processes. The Caucasus, Transcaucasia, as it has also been known, and Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan as a very influential actor. So this is how we see this space, geographical space today. What was our methodology? We tried to make some forecasts, which is, of course, a very ungrateful task. However, we tried to range the subjects and the actors which are influential in the context of the contemporary political situation. And here we had to take into account not only internal but also external factors. Then we tried to reconstruct the tendencies which influence the situation, but the declared goals were often different from the realistic, the officially declared goals. Then we were trying to identify the tendencies which influence the situation, which was not an easy task. Here we were conducting focus groups, talking to the different members of the political establishment, and then we built a matrix of scenarios, which I will show a bit later, and we were also trying to identify the most probable scenarios. In this sense, scenario probabilistics is not an attempt to foresee the future, but rather to adapt the strategies which are being developed to the different scenarios. So these are the most influential subjects that we have introduced into this matrix. Russia, China, the EU, the United States, the Ukraine, and Kazakhstan. There were other subjects, of course, including social organizations, churches. However, these were acknowledged to be the most influential actors. Now, Russia, being the most influential actor, we have reconstructed these goals. Number one, a claim to reconstituting the global influence. Preserving the zone of influence and preserving the empire. So these are the three implicit goals for Russia that we have identified. China, obtaining the status of a global leader, the expansion in Asia, so far in Asia, and the reconstituting of the so-called Silk Road. Our horizon of prognostication was 10 years. The EU security, cooperation, energy supply, influence and Eastern Partnership, and support for democratizing in the post-Soviet space. Now, and we have ranged these goals by what we perceive to be the hierarchy of importance. So, according to this scenario, the United States, in our views, the United States have pursued the goals of re-establishing the world order, something that was and would be consistent with the post-war stability, and indeed the United States is very concerned about the security and a promotion of democratic values. The Ukraine, independence, the reconstituting of the territorial integrity, European choice and security. Kazakhstan, strengthening of independence, security, and economic cooperation, which in our view is related to the key role of Kazakhstan in this new Silk Road. The tendencies which we have identified in this region, globally important, are the new digital technologies, which is, of course, a somewhat vague term, but we have seen that the forecasts for technologies developments are such that the mankind may fail to control them. And in this sense, we are viewing the concept of the technological singularity, which may change a lot in the world today. The new energy sector as part of new technologies, but also something that may influence our demands for the energy supply, and new management technologies. These are the regional tendencies. Disintegration of the Soviet space, post-Soviet space, which relates not only to Russia, but also all of the ex-Soviet republics. There is an integration tendency, however, it is a lot weaker. Crisis of raw materials economy, extraction-based economy, brain leak or intellect leak from post-Soviet states. And we have been looking for some bifurcation points. The bifurcation points which originated from the catastrophe theory, which shows that the events could develop in one or another way after a zone of after a point of no return. So we have seen different bifurcation points, but we have been able to identify two. Number one, would the crisis of extraction-based economy or raw materials-based economy enter an acute phase where the oil prices may go down and the resource rich countries would find themselves in crisis, or that would not happen? This is one point of bifurcation. And the other is if the Ukraine would leave the zone of influence of Russia. And that's an extremely important point for the entire post-Soviet space. So we have built a matrix of scenarios, uncertainty, and this is what we have done. One, uncertainty, if the Ukraine would leave the zone of influence of Russia, would it extend its ambition? And secondly, is the crisis of raw-based economy. Should we see and shall we see the crisis of raw materials-based economy? So we have seen three scenarios to emerge from this matrix. Number one is a breakthrough when the Ukraine is successful, but the raw materials economy would continue to exist. So Russia would not suffer much because of an economic crisis. And of course, Belarus is also among those countries which are resource-based because it is primarily a re-exporter of the Russian energy. The second scenario is whereby Georgia, Moldova, and some of the post-Soviet countries make a European choice. The other scenario is what we call the post-Soviet Renaissance, whereby the Ukraine remains in the zone of influence of Russia. We have developed these scenarios, and I would be happy to explain these in private conversations throughout these seminars, as well as to share our presentations. The only thing I would like to mention, however, is that the post-Soviet Renaissance is only possible if the new Ukrainian government is not successful and becomes politically bankrupt.
Where the current government will fail and where pro-Russian parties led by Medvedchuk will come to rule, and again Russia must in this situation even have enough resources to keep Ukraine in its orbit. Otherwise the other two scenarios are highly more likely, and the scenario, the new Europe, is that Ukraine will be like the trailblazer, the example of good, a successful fight against corruption and democratization, and a new Europe will become a very strong attractor for countries like Belarus, because Belarus and Asia, well, it's hard to understand for us. In point of fact, we sometimes find it very good for us to stay within the Eurasian Economic Union when we buy cheap energy, but tax maneuver may exempt us from, may push us away from this attractive perspective. So the last point I wish to make is that there are things that exist objectively. There is nothing you can do without it. If you look at the markets, markets are measured by GDP, well, roughly, at nominal, not at purchasing power, at nominal value. So do let us look at what are the poles of influence for countries like Moldova, Ukraine, Belarus, and what markets are there. They may have higher barriers, but they have quite high awards after you go through this barrier. And Eurasian economic space, and Russia has the GDP that is commensurate actually, and there is no way you can do without it. So once again, graphic representation. So speaking about strategic choice, sooner or later, these markets will be so attractive that you can't disregard it. At this, I would like to stop my presentation. If you have questions, I've got many slides as illustration to your answers. Thank you.